All right. What's up? What's up, y'all? This is Marcus Frazier from Teachable Tuesdays, here to motivate you, encourage you, and inspire you to be a better you. Thank you for joining me today. Greatly, greatly appreciated. As always, if you could, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you also hit the notification button so that way you stay up to date with all of my future Teachable Tuesdays content. And today we are going to do a video on 3 general lessons that can be learned from relationships and 3 personal lessons that can be learned from relationships. Now, the reason why I'm doing 3 general and 3 personal is because really all of these lessons are going to be involving things that I've learned from relationships over the years or almost relationships, however you want to call them. And the general ones will be, ones that I learned that could be for everyone. And the 3 personal ones are going to be more so directly towards me and probably more so for the fellas because I'm a man. But ladies, you could probably relate to some degree with the personal ones. So we're gonna start with the 3 general ones, which is for everybody, for my fellas and my ladies. And we're gonna do the personal ones afterwards. All right. So we'll start with the first general one when it comes to relationships. The first general one that I want to talk about is making sure that you don't hold on to bitterness and that you forgive from your past relationships, right? Now, listen, when a relationship ends, it's not an easy thing to deal with, right? It sucks. It really does, especially, because at one point in time, regardless of what happened, you saw yourself building a future with that individual, right? And to go from texting and calling every day to hanging out 2 or 3 times a week to pretty much nothing, like they never existed, it stinks, right? And sometimes it may have been your fault. Sometimes it may have been their fault. Maybe it was both parties. But there might be a little bit of, resentment there. You have to let go of that resentment before you move on to another relationship. And you have to be willing to forgive. If you don't, it will literally bleed over to the next person, metaphorically, of course. And that's not a good look. Nobody wants to suffer from the sins of thy past, right? So if you want to have a successful relationship, I encourage you to make sure that you have truly forgiven your past. Anybody that's hurt you in your past, in terms of relationship or relationship type relationships, if you will, right? Almost relationships, situationships, if you've been in any, so on and so forth, because that will indeed definitely make a difference in order for you to be able to have a successful relationship, right? So that's the first generation lesson. Make sure you forgive others. Don't hold on to regret. Don't hold on to bitterness. Lesson number 2, general lesson number 2 when it comes to relationships. And I've said this on this channel before, and I'm going to continue to say it because it's very, very important. But do not be afraid to ask tough questions, okay? Don't be afraid to ask the tough questions. And the reason why I bring that up is because a lot of times people shy away from the tough questions. People will say, oh, that's too early to ask that question and this and that and so on and so forth. Listen, especially if you are 30 and over. Now, if you're in your 20s, I still think it's important for you to ask these questions, but I say 30 and over especially because look, we're older, we ain't getting no younger, we ain't got time to be playing games, right? You want to make sure you ask the tough questions out the gate because some of those tough questions that you ask are your non-negotiables. So, for example, on a first or second date, and some people might disagree with me on this, but I will legit ask a woman, does she want kids? The reason being is because I want kids. I want two. I'm willing to compromise with one, but I would love to have two, but I got to at least have one minimum, right? And if a woman tells me out the gate, the answer is no, then I'm not gonna go any further because that is indeed a non-negotiable for me. I don't have a lot of non-negotiables, but that's definitely a big one. Or another non-negotiable for me would be you know her being a Christian. She has to be a Christian because I'm a believer. If she's not a believer, then it just won't work. It's no knock on her. She's probably a great woman, but we're not going to be equally yoked. So yes, you have to ask those tough questions ASAP. And again, you might not ask the first date, you might not ask the second date, but before you get into a committed relationship, you need to ask those questions because if they don't align with what you're looking for, you're going to end up compromising. And yes, there are certain things you can compromise with, but you don't compromise with your non-negotiables, nor should you, right? Number 3, as far as general lessons that I've learned is that despite what people believe, relationships actually do take work. They take work, y'all. You've seen couples who have been together for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 25 plus years, even 30 plus years, right? Understand that the longer that they stayed together, the more work was required because things don't get easy. People change, mindsets change. Listen, I'm 34 years old as of the recording of this video. I'm a lot different than I was when I was 24. I'm a lot different than I was when I was 21. Shoot, to be real with you, I'm a lot different than I was when I was 32, even 33. Things have changed. My world has changed. And because my world has changed, it has allowed me to change as an individual, right? You are always going to be changing. And in order for you to have a successful relationship, you have to be also willing to change with your partner. I guarantee you, ask anybody who's been married for, I'm going to say 20 years or more. They will tell you that they changed. I know people who told me stories of how they got married when they were in their 20s. Now they're in their 60s, and they talked about how much life changed and they had to adapt. The circumstances of life, right? Loved ones passing away, having children, having grandchildren. All those things shape your reality, not just in your world, but your world. So you have to be willing to make adjustments. If you can't make adjustments early on, there is no way that your relationship is going to be successful. Because what do you think is going to happen 10 years from now, 15 years from now, God willing, even 40 or 50 years from now, if you make it to live that long, right? So you got to be willing to understand that you got to put the work in to get the results that you want, just like anything. Now I'm going to give you guys three personal ones for me. And again, these may be more so for my fellas, but ladies, you might identify with at least one of these things. The first one you won't, but the other two, maybe it's a possibility. And number one on the personal list for me of lessons that I've learned over the years of relationships is do not date older women. Now, again, this is just me. I'm not telling fellas not to date older women, but let me explain my reasoning why you may agree with me, or you might even disagree, which is fine. So, I have a pretty long age range, right? My age range typically is from 21 all the way to about it's been about 38. So I told myself I wouldn't want to date more than 4 years up, right? I was in a relationship with a woman that was a little bit older than me. She's 41, right? And great woman, unfortunately things just ended up not working out with us. But the reason why I mentioned don't date older women it ties a lot into the children aspect, right? And any woman will tell you this. I don't have to, just tell you this on my own, but you can ask a woman who's older and she'll tell you the truth, right? Um, when women get older, they are less likely to have kids without complications. Not saying you can't have kids as a woman if you're older. God can do some amazing things, most certainly. But there is more challenges for complications with childbirth involved. More likely the child will have certain challenges, right? So also, here's another thing that you have to know. When you date someone that's older in general, but especially an older woman, the likelihood of her wanting kids is a lot lower than someone who's younger. That's not to say that younger women don't want kids. I mean, that you won't meet a younger woman that doesn't want kids. I've met plenty, trust me, and even ones around my age. But it's more likely that they won't want to have kids the older they get because of the medical complications, because of personal things, and so on and so forth. So for me, that's the number one reason why I personally am no longer dating women that are older than me, because for that very reason, because I want to have children. Right now, I do have a cutoff age. I told myself when I turn 40, if I don't have kids by then, it ain't gonna happen. So I can understand why older individuals, especially older women, don't want to have children because when a woman is pregnant, her body goes through a lot of changes, right? And she may not want to experience those changes, or she might simply just no longer have a desire for children. So that's just me. So from now on, I'm staying within my age range. I'm taking it back 21 through 34, or 21 to whatever my age is. That might change later on down the road, but as of right now, that's what it is. So that's a personal lesson for me. Don't date older women. Now, when I say older women, let me make it perfectly clear. If she's like a year or two older than you, okay, that's not too bad, right? But if she's, I'm gonna say more than 2 years older than me at this point in my life. Nah, I'm good. I'm good on that. Number two, as far as personal lessons that I've learned, is that some of your non-negotiables um, can be reasoned with, right? Now, I've said on this channel before, when you have a non-negotiable, stick with it, right? Don't deviate from it. However, I actually talked with one of my best friends recently, and although I didn't completely agree with everything that he said, he did make some valid points. And we were talking about relationship stuff. Unfortunately, my last relationship did not work out, and he was just talking me through it because sometimes you need a good friend to really talk things through. And one of the things that he was telling me was, Marcus, some of your non-negotiables are, they can be reasoned with, right? And I'll tell you about three of my non-negotiables. So I would say three of my non-negotiables in a relationship is one, you can't have more than one kid. If you have more than one kid, I'm not going to date you because I personally want more children. And that's another thing. The more kids that you have, the more likely you're not going to want kids. So I could date a woman with one kid, but anything beyond that's not for me. She could be an amazing woman. That's just not a desire for me. You know what I'm saying? That's definitely non-negotiable. Number two, you gotta want to have kids, which kind of ties somewhat to number one, but not really, because this applies for women without kids too. And you know, number three, let me see if I can give you one that he mentioned that a non-negotiable could be reasoned with. Number three is she has to be within close proximity, right? That was a non-negotiable that could be reasoned with, right? Because I told myself I'm no longer doing long distance relationships. But now that I think about it, she don't necessarily have to be within a certain mile radius, right? Because first I was like, well, she can't be more than about an hour and a half away, right? But Florida's a pretty big state. You know what I'm saying? It'd be different if you know, I don't know. It's a pretty big state. So I mean, if I happen to meet a nice woman that lives in Miami or Eustis or Jacksonville or something, which are not around the corner trips for me, I should be open to those things, right? Because you never know. So I'm not saying that you should negotiate with your non-negotiables, but really sit down and think about is it really a non-negotiable? Now, some non-negotiables I hear from people, and this I think it's ridiculous, is um, she got to be a virgin, he got to be this tall, she got to be this complexion, he got to be this weight, and so on and so forth. I think those are things that can be reasoned with, and I'll explain why in another video. I don't want to go too long with that. So yeah, those are my three personal ones: the children, the older aspect, the children aspect, and a non-negotiable aspect. Those are personal ones that I've learned, and there are way more. But I don't want this video to go on too long. So bottom line is, guys, there are a lot of things that you can learn from relationships. I think the most important thing to ask yourself as you're navigating through the dating pool is number one, are you keeping God first? Because God is the thing that ties everything together. Number two, are you willing to adapt? People change. You're going to change. And number three, are you willing to put in the work? Because you see all this cute stuff on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and stuff like that. But think about what goes on behind the scenes. All right. Marcus Rage from Teachable Tuesdays here to motivate you, encourage you, and inspire you to be a better you. Thank you for joining me today. Greatly appreciate it. As always, I love you guys. Hope you have an amazing day. Peace.